allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justice for all. Oh. Okay. Any citizens' concerns? I didn't look over prior month's minutes.
And what you read in the...
Did I read it? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't. I guess they're approved then.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
So, it's what you read at the council meeting, isn't it?
Yeah,
Unless you change something that
not that I'm aware of. Third item on the agenda is site prep for pickleball courts. I was looking it over and, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but go ahead, Kate.
Around here too. The Rotary Club is fundraising for 8 new pickleball courts at Rotary Park.
How many?
8. The city of Perrysburg has agreed to essentially be the supervisors of the entire project. So we will front end the money for site preparation. Rotary Club is just beginning their fundraising. They will pay us back, but not immediately for this site preparation. And then this should be able to be done hopefully before the end of the year. That way, if we can put pickleball courts in next year.
Questions?
I'm a member of Rotary, so I don't really have too many questions. And because of that, I don't think I can actually vote on this. I think it was the same thing with the pavilion when that went through as well.
Just, okay. I really don't have any questions other than, you said 8 pickleball courts?
Yes,
I feel
ma'am.
like I need to question you since you don't come that often and give you a hard time, but I won't.
Well, the site preparation is key.
Yeah,
Especially at this time of year, we'd like to do the site prep and have everything built in place of the spring. So Courtsmiths will come in and basically lay the asphalt for the courts in a nutshell.
city doing that as site prep?
G6 is doing the site
Okay.
prep.
That's what the legislation is for.
Okay, I missed that.
The only question that I have is that with the Rotary Park as a master plan park, I believe we have to update the master plan as well. So I'm assuming that's going to go over to Recreation Committee.
I think the update to the master plan won't take place until we have a design for the actual course so that we update it correctly and don't miss something.
Okay. I just want to make certain that we don't miss that step.
Yeah. I do know, the last very nice day we had last week, one of the last Sundays, I was out there at the pickleball courts and they were awful. So I think it's something that will be utilized.
I know it's a very popular game. I'm assuming the city's going to keep the other pickleball courts going at Municipal Park once these are through, or is that going to be converted back to tennis?
No, we'll continue the pickleball.
Okay.
They'll be used. I mean, there's people waiting to use them.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
No.
I'm going to recommend that we send it on to council for approval. And I know you can't say anything, so it's going.
So it's a 1-0.
Yep. Okay, additional funding for Fire Station 38. I was gonna say, meeny, miny,
I guess I won the draw on this one. So, as I'm sure you probably remember, this project is Station 38 across the street. Basically doing some remodel work to try to get the existing fire station broken up into different zones. So when firefighters come in with their dirty gear, they're not walking through the living areas, the sleeping areas, that kind of stuff. So there'll be a hot zone, a medium, a cool zone, and then a cold zone. Like any remodel project that you have in your home, or if you're building a new home, stuff happens. There's stuff that wasn't shown, was not built in the place it was shown on the plans. There was stuff that wasn't shown on the plans that was found, and just some little items that came up. Some of the existing doors that we wanted to reuse aren't quite wide enough to meet current ADA standards, so while we're in there, it makes sense to widen them out So it's just stuff like that. So this is just legislation to get some extra contingency money so that we can fill out those 8 change orders that are there. I would like to point out that on some of the engineering projects, the 3 projects on 25 at Rocheton, Preston, and South Boundary, those will all be returning contingency money that won't be spent. And the resurfacing project will also be returning some funds. I can't give you the exact numbers yet because I don't have those closed out, but it'll be more than enough to cover this extra that's being asked for the fire station project. So I don't know if there's any questions on the specifics.
Whole purpose of contingencies to make certain that we hopefully don't have to come back.
Right.
But, you know, sometimes there's unexpected issues. I'm still kind of curious how this big hole is behind the bulletin board, but
Yeah,
that's something that probably has been there for probably a better part of a decade, I'm sure.
There's a whole TikTok commercial these days about the hole behind the.
Oh, yes.
oh, yeah.
Did we find anything cool behind it?
As far as I know, they didn't find anything behind it.
Okay, so no hidden rooms that we didn't know about?
No extra rooms.
I have a question. Wasn't some of this already sent to council for change order?
The change order was approved when we approved the legislation, the first 7%.
Yeah.
This is an additional $10,000 on top of the contract and the 7% change order. Because we ran into enough pickups that we needed more than the 7%. And keep in mind, at the time that we did this legislation, I didn't have Brian, so it was a little bit of a guess as to what the change order should be. And now that we have Brian, we'll be a little more accurate, hopefully, in those percentages. So 7% was sort of we think this is what it will be, and it turns out to be more.
Yeah, I'm thinking when it comes to old buildings, maybe we should just do it higher, be on the safe side, you know.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
I know for the most part we've been pretty good at
Yeah,
keeping
we
on
have.
that, so.
We have.
And with Brian here, and that's why we came the big bucks.
Exactly. I'm
I'm good with it.
okay. Send it on to council for approval. Engineering design service for Fort Meg's multi-use path project. Hey.
Sweet. All right. So both of you probably know more about this project than I have.
Yeah.
I do because it's my understanding it's been going on for some time. But we actually went out for engineering services, went out for qualifications, heard back from 6 different firms, ranked the firms, got with the highest scoring firm, which was GPD Group, and they came back with their cost proposal. So the ordinance before you is to get the money, so that we can put it in the project, so that we can get it started on the engineering work. A couple of things that I would like to point out. The price that they gave us is a not to exceed, kind of a worst case scenario. There are some unknowns. If you went through the whole big list they gave, there's tables in the back. They have everything broken out by man hours. So some of these tasks that they're doing, you know, they estimated, for example, 100 hours to do the work. If it only takes them 80 hours to do the work, we will only get billed for the 80 hours. We will not be billed for the 100. I've worked with this group before when I was in Finley on a project. I did it the same way. They came in under. They were able to do stuff in less time. So I'm assuming that we should be able to do that here also. I also wanted to point out with the feasibility study that was done, where they looked at the ditch. The limits of that was Echo Junction Road and Sutton. This project will actually take the multi-use path and extend it all the way up to River Road, so that will all be connected. There's also some other information here. Some of the information I've got a request into the firm that did the feasibility study and some of the other stuff to try to get some of their existing survey information and some of the information that they put together. Some of that should be able to be reused, but the banks are also still moving. So some of it will still need updated. So, like for example, the survey price that's in there, I'm hoping we won't have to do that much survey work. We can use some of what they have, check some extra, update it. So that's kind of, like I said, a worst case scenario. The if authorized items, there's a couple items there that we just wanted to throw in for now. in case we need them. If we don't need them, we won't use them, then the money won't be returned. So that's kind of like a contingency setup. We won't know till we get into it with the amount of work that's going to be included with the ditch. We know we're going to need an Army Corps permit. We may or may not need an EPA permit. So one of those items is, excuse me, if we need an EPA permit, getting that set up, the permit fee for the EPA, depending on what we do with the ditch, the culverts at Kettle Run and Fox Run may need to be adjusted. So there's a price in there for the design if we have to touch those. Hopefully we won't have to. And in their basic service, they looked at, assuming there'll be 500 feet of retaining wall. There's a little extra that they put in there that if authorized, that if it's more than that, and they have more time designing it, they'd have the extra money in there for that. I also want to point out that with the project, we plan to only clear whatever trees we need to clear to get the project done. But with that being the case, depending on the trees that are out there, I wanted to get this through as soon as we could get it through so we could get the design started. So that if there are trees we have to clear, and if they meet the requirements with the Indiana back clearing time frame or the other ODNR requirements, that we can get those trees cleared before I think it's April 1st or 30th. I can never remember if it's the beginning or the end of the month. So that we can get that part done. So hopefully we can keep the process moving now that we got it started, and hopefully we can keep going. I think that's all the bullet items I had. So I don't know if I thought of all your questions or if you have any other that I didn't think of. So hopefully you won't stump me on.
So I do have one question. I know looking over the, let me get this pulled back up. Where did this sheet go? I'm sorry, everything just decided that it doesn't want to load properly. On the scorecard, I know that Bergman was a very close second, but they were involved with the initial study itself. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason why it would make sense to go to a whole new firm that hasn't been part of this versus, I know it's a 2.6 off of that, and I'm curious to know if they have the data, if it would be more cost effective to go to that one versus GPD.
Okay. The way that the revised code is set up for engineering and architecture services, it cannot be selected based on price. It's selected based on qualifications. So you go out for qualifications. Any group that wants to submit qualifications submits the qualifications. They get ranked. You go to the highest scored firm, negotiate. If the price seems reasonable, whatever. If you can't come to an agreement, you can move on to number two. So we can't just go to Bergman because they've already done the other stuff, because they did score lower. One thing that I try to do when I score them, I do not score projects on my own. Mm-hmm. I try to make sure there's at least 3 people. I think in this case, I can't remember if there's 5 or 6.
I see 5 beyond. Yourself,
yeah.
Bridget, Alice, Matt, and Rob on that.
Yeah, so the 5 of us scored it. Some scored some groups higher than others. It's just the way it is, how you read them. GPD just came out as the highest group.
I'm just curious because I think there might be some savings if we could, but if there's nothing we can change in the revised code, there's nothing we can change in that.
And I'm just surprised because I know one of the lead engineers on the Bergman projects is a very experienced engineer.
Well, all the firms that submitted had qualifications on multi-use paths and ditches and environmental work. Excuse me. And a lot of them, if you sit down and read through them, a lot of them said the same things. A lot of them had a lot of the same qualifications. It's just the personal, as the person scoring it is reading it, who they feel is a better fit on those categories. Like I said, that's why especially this one, I want to have a group of 5, so that you can't say that one person could sway it one way or another. And I guess the only other thing I'd like to point out is with this part of this being the ditch work, and part of being the multi-use path, in the legislation, if you look at it, excuse me, Part of the funds are coming from utilities, and then part of it's coming from the general fund.
Any other, so I'm happy to hear that it's going to go all the way down River Road. Just some food for thought when I go running along that path. I know once you get past Sutton, between Sutton and River Road, when you have heavy rains, I know that sidewalk tends to flood quite often. I'm sure that that's going to be taken into account, but I wanted to make sure that that's made aware of.
Yes.
And then with the fencing, do we have an idea of what type of fence that we're going to be putting along the ditch in those areas, or?
I do not know yet
Okay.
what kind of fence it would be, or if the ditch will be far enough away that we wouldn't need a fence. We've got to get into design for that part. The drainage there along the sidewalk north of Sutton is going to be looked at. I cannot stand here and tell you that when this is done, there will never be water flooding in that area ever again. Nobody can say that.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you design for, you can always get a bigger rain. But it will be better than what it is now, yes.
And one of the things I want to mention as well is with this multi-use path and how it's located on the residential properties, once this goes, or if this goes in, I don't want to say once because we don't know if council can vote on it. A lot of that's going to be in what is the backyard of many of these residents with a ditch in between. So in order for these residents to have access, it's going to be very difficult for them, now we're coming with the winter season, to maintain those. One of the things I would like the city to explore is to see if there's ways the city can assist with maintaining those, knowing that there's going to be a degree of difficulty to keep those up in order. I know they only required to have 5 feet, but it may make sense for the city to come through and at least try to make sure that that's completely clear.
Okay.
I guess I don't understand what you do. We're talking about maintaining the.
During heavy snows is to find a way to clear the path.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, not even I had no idea what you were talking about maintaining.
No,
Okay, yeah.
I mean, if you think about
I
where some
see.
of those homes are, that they're gonna have to walk
Yeah.
a half mile with a
Yeah.
snow thrower, snow blower, whatever you wanna call it, or shovel.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well,
And-
can that go along your route, and you can just do it as you run?
I would do it, but, they don't move fast enough.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't even thinking of that. For some reason,
I know Bridget tends to get a lot of text messages from me when I go on my runs when I find things, so.
yeah.
She knows when I'm out running.
I've done that.
That's fine. I had council members in Philly that did the same thing, when they lived downtown, that always, hey, fix this light's out, this is this. I'm like, okay, I'm used to it.
I'm also wondering if the sidewalk they tend to slope them now, so they don't hold water as much.
That'll be something we'll just mention once we get to the
Yeah.
design again. I'm just gonna bring that up quite often.
Nope, that's fine.
I don't think I have any questions. The only thing I just want to make a comment is I definitely want to make certain that we discuss this at the public utility, since there's also utilities
Yeah.
dollars associated with it.
That's fine.
So I think it would be important to have a recommendation come from both committees.
Yeah.
I know we have it only on the service one if our,
I believe Alice is going to be here to talk about it.
okay, I thought I saw it on the agenda, but when I was talking to Bridget today, she mentioned it being in service, and I want to make certain that it's talked to public utilities as well.
You leave your hard copy there, but I didn't make copies for public utilities.
That's fine. I got mine. Both of us are going to be on that committee too, so it's just adding one more person to talk about it.
They can have Corey's copy.
Yes. But otherwise, I'm good with this. I think that this is going to be the right thing. I guess the only thing that I know we can't necessarily go back to get grants for something we already done. But there was that conversation initially that there could be a possibility for grants with this.
Yeah.
I just want to see if you know anything or see anything come up. I think that would be a great opportunity.
The only thing with the grants is the time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're trying to move quick on
Because
this.
we could have applied with Team Chicago over the summer, but that would be for construction in 25, I believe.
Yeah.
They're out that far, and I don't think you want to wait another.
I don't think anybody wants to wait anymore to figure out what's
I don't think
wrong.
the ditch will last that long.
Well, it definitely will. I mean, the
Speaking
ditch
of
will,
which-
it's everything else will.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When you mentioned about the ditch lasting that long, I don't know if you received the email with the photo of
Yeah.
the ditch starting to collapse in.
Spots, yeah.
And I just want to make sure that that's made on the public record as well, that we are seeing the ditch in certain parts starting to collapse, and that's inching closer to the actual Fort Mix Road itself.
And we're gonna have to do some amount of ditch clearing. We have to.
Right,
And,
Hopefully it's as minimal as possible.
right,
right, but you still have to. I mean,
I understand.
right. And the
because,
utility department did go through and put some wrap in those areas where they saw it starting to slough to try to hold it down.
Which is a whole other reason why we want to get this taken care of sooner, because we don't want
Right.
that
Right,
look out there.
but I
And-
just didn't want you to think we're up here crossing our fingers that we'll get it done before something
Yeah.
happens. We are, trying to take care of issues as they come up.
and I also agree with getting this approved so we can at least start clearing it out.
Mhm.
That's something our crews can do, right? No?
It'll probably depend on, if it's scrub, or if it's
Yeah.
at least I know in Finley, if I told them there's a 40-inch oak tree they got to cut down, most of them would be like, no, we don't want to touch that. I'm assuming it's the same here.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to try to avoid anything that's in there pretty good, and I think, honestly, I think with the clear cutting that was done before, it may not have helped the situation with where the collapse is starting.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Who knows what could have happened, but
Sometimes it contributes to,
I just don't think that it helped anything with all the, I know most of the roots are probably still intact, but there's still some issues that but that was something that you weren't here for, so.
no. Send it on to council. Oh, after we discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, subject to public utilities, even though it's going to be at least 2 coming from public utility, or at least 2
Yeah.
from public
Right.
utilities, so.
Okay. Last thing on the agenda is talking about the next meeting.
It's currently scheduled for December 22nd. City offices are closed the 23rd and 24th. The question was whether or not you wanted to leave the service committee on the 22nd.
I don't know where we would change it to at this point.
Or whether you wanted to cancel it.
Maybe we just wait and see if there's anything important that comes up.
That's what I'm thinking. Let's just wait. If there's no reason to have it, then we'll just tentatively schedule it to be canceled. How's that?
So what?
Keep it on there and
What is
then-
the drop dead date for Friday the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing on Friday the 17th, we'll send you a notice the meeting is canceled.
Sure, we'll probably do the same thing with public utilities then. So no, if we move it out in between Christmas and New Year's, a lot of people go out of town that time anyways.
Other concerns or anything?
I will say that I think you guys did a great job on the intersection there in South Boundary. I saw you guys moving the lights around today to make certain that we could get into there. The only thing, and I mentioned this to Bridget as well, is if there's a way to put some reflectors right where the yellow line is, before the car's turning left.
It's in the plan to put the dotted.
Okay, perfect. Because I know some people are cutting, I'm not speaking for a friend who may be cutting a little too close.
Even with the, I do have one question. It's about down by Roachton Road. I see they left that one. I was under the impression that they were going to allow only breaks in the medium between Roachton and all the way up through there, the turn lanes, right, the new one and the other one. But I see there is a spot where that is still open. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I can't think of the street, but yes, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. That's how the way the plans were done.
I was under-
That should be per the study that was done and updated the last time, I believe in 2017.
That's kind of my concern with the amount of traffic and stuff. I can see that potentially causing incidents, lots of incidents.
It's something we definitely keep our eye on as more traffic gets through there. And as the traffic flow changes a little bit with Preston now being a full
Yeah.
intersection instead of just a right in, right out, we'll see how that kind of changes the pattern and something we can keep an eye on.
We can always put whatever you call those things.
Yeah, the little delineators, yep.
Yeah, down through there if it's an issue.
Yep.
So, and I don't believe we've had any issues. I don't believe Starbucks has caused the problems that that certain people anticipated it would.
So far, to my knowledge, we have not had an increase in traffic incidents at that corner.
I haven't
Most,
seen much of a backup either, so, which is,
exactly, and most of the things I've seen have been people come from the gas station, not from Starbucks, causing issues. The only other thing is, I would like to commend service, I saw him out putting brine down today. Since I'm a big
Thank you.
advocate of the use of brine and ultimately cutting costs, using less salt, so the EPA barks less, I'm a big supporter of it, so. I believe it causes less damage to the roads, because you use less salt in the cars and so on and so forth.
And in the event of snow, hopefully it'll buy us some time.
It always does, well, I shouldn't say.
We rely on ways to call the guys in for snow and ice. At times when they first start to see this activation of the brine and use of the brine, it does buy us some time.
And in an incident like tonight, you might not even have to go in other than to send a
It's true.
I cannot talk, skeletal
We put
crew out.
over 7,000 gallons down today.
I mean, you might not even get called
We're
out.
talking maybe 10, 20 cents on a gallon.
Exactly. And
It's minimal cost.
cuts down accidents, gives you, like you said, buys you time to get the crews in, get the trucks loaded and set out. So, it's a good
Thank
deal. That's all I have.
I really don't have too much more to add other than what I've already said, so, but I think the intersection looks great. If there's anything else, I'll always reach out.
And I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
That was fast.
Yeah.
That's not up.
Yeah.
Kind of